Hi, I'm Everett. Welcome back to the shop. So first off, I've kind of had a few people ask me about stickers, and as I said before, I've just been messing around here building stuff and working on a few cars and such and taking video, what I've been doing. But you know, people have been asking if I had a sticker to share or whatever. So they finally came in, and you may have noticed on the intro that the logo has changed a bit. My buddy Morgan is a graphics designer, and he came up with this idea here. I kind of think he did a decent job of it, and I don't have a drill guide for a drill chuck to be able to drill into the face of something mounted in the truck. So that's where this little guy's coming in. I drew it up. Again, it's not a very complex plan. Trickiest bit will be the dovetail, and even then, that's not a big deal, really. I have a Jacobs drill chuck that will go on this end here. So that's what we're up against this time. So anyway, enough chatting. Let's get to building something. Well, like Harold says, first step is grab the bandsaw. There we go. I'm going to rough using the 3/4 inch end mill, and then I'm going to use the fly cutter to make a nice finish. We're going to start with this surface here and go from there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to touch off with a 3/4 inch end mill. I just want to get below the scale on this side. There we go. I just want to get below the scale on this side, and then once we get below the scale by, say, 50 thou or so, then we're going to make a skim pass with the fly cutter. Do a 10,000th cut, see what it does. All right, not bad. Certainly better finish than it was with the end mill. So I need to do a few roughing passes to bring it down close to 1 3/4 inches thick. We're going to do our final passes with the fly cutter. What I'll do is, you don't really want to watch me square a block. There are lots of videos on YouTube for how to square a block. So I'm just going to pause it here and we'll bring it down to thickness. So we're going to have to rough this, and then we'll take the fly cutter and clean this end up as well. All right. Right there. 3.501, 3.599. Yeah, so with how accurate these can be, yeah, so according to it, we're within 1,000th or so. Well within tolerance. So all I have to do is deburr this guy, and then we can move on to the lathe part. So after a little bit of fiddling and farting and adjusting this in the 4-jaw chuck, what I've gotten is in this dimension here, it's now centered, and we've offset it to the one side by about 1/8 of an inch. I don't know if you can see, but the machine itself is actually shaking. This will get our hole started for us. Hopefully it'll stay reasonably straight. Alright, that's about as deep as I can go with that drill bit. That other short stubby drill bit was a 5.5 millimeter. This here is a 1/4 inch, so it's a slightly larger bit, but it'll follow that hole down. That hole is established, should be established as reasonably straight. Alright, there we go. She's through. I got a 1/2 inch drill bit in, that's our next step. And we're through. And we're through. Well, as much as I hate having to do this, I don't even, I don't have a 47/64 drill bit to pre-drill before reaming. I was hoping to ream it to final size. And the boring bar I do have, the longer one won't fit and the narrower one is too skinny. It's just not going to reach. I'm just going to drill it. I'm making the bushings anyway, so if I wind up a few thousandths over 750, then I can make the bushings to suit. So as much as I hate having to do this, this is what I have at the moment with tooling, because I'm not about to buy a 47/64 drill bit for one project. So here we go. Seeing as it's my project for a tool I'm going to be using, I'll take it up with my own engineering department. There you go, we're through. Well, seeing as the hole wound up being 763 thousandths across, we're going to have to make the bushing a little bit thicker. Again, I would have liked to have reamed it, but I just don't really have the tooling at this point, and I thought I did. Not a big deal, we can still make this project work. So what I'm going to do is I need to turn the outside of this brass down to 764 thousandths because I want about a thousandth's worth of interference. We're going to turn that down, and then we're going to drill and ream the inside of this to a little over 1/2 inch. I have a reamer that does 501. So we'll see how that works, and if I have to, I'll polish the 4140 shaft that's going to go into it. Wow. Yep, that's brass. It gets everywhere. I'm going to try a different tool. Give me a minute. That's a little better. There we go. Yeah, that's 764.5. That's okay. Alright, time for a 501 reamer. Slowed her right down. In we go. So here I have my piece of 4140 shafting that I'm going to use for the, well, with a shaft. And I feel air compression and I get suction. Just a very, very light amount of play. I like that fit because with a little bit of oil that will guide and still slide inside. So good, good. Let's double check here, and that looks, yeah, pretty much 1 inch. There we go. There's one. Alrighty. 2 bushings. So there we go. There are 2 bushings. I will just need to take the little burr off the end of the inside bore there. I'll just use the hand tool for that, and then we can press them into the body. Pretty much square. There we go. Bushing number 2. Let's go see how this fits. Well, in the interest of full disclosure here, what I found after pressing the bushings in is that I lost that 1,000th worth of clearance. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I was kind of curious, seeing as it was only a 1/1000 press fit on the outside, but I did. So rather than try to line that up and ream it out again, I polished the shaft. I just polished the shaft. Again, I went from 500 to 498, 498 and a half, and she now slides through quite nicely. A little bit snug, but that's okay. I'd rather it start out snug and loosen up over time. The thing is, this is actually going to be oiled as well. There are going to be a couple oil ports in it to lubricate it, so this will work just fine for what my purposes are. So a while back on eBay, I grabbed one of those boxes of a gazillion assorted machinist's parts, and you know, they have all sorts of crazy tabs on there as far as description. And it just so happened that there was a 3/8 Jacobs chuck in the bin there. It's got a 3/8 24 thread in the back as far as threading it onto a drill. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this 1/2 inch shaft and we're going to put threads on it. Let's face this end. So I got my 3/8 24 die, and I have the starting side this way. That way, I can bring my chuck up against it. So theoretically, that should slide in there, register up against that back, which it does. There. So we've just found the edge right there. I've zeroed my dial on this side. Bring that up. Turn this off now. So it should be right about there. Will be, yeah, right there. That's our center line. Next step is we're going to have to cut a groove down square in between these two marks, between 1 inch 60 thousandths and 2 inch 440 from this end. We're going to cut that groove, and then from there we're going to start making our dovetail. This groove we have to cut is going to be 1 inch 380 across, or 1 inch 380 thousandths across. Half of that is 690 thousandths. Our cutter is a 750 thou cutter, so what we need to do is move over the offset of that. We're already 3/8 of an inch cutting on this side of the center line, so the difference between 375 and 690 is 315 thousandths. Even just eyeballing it, that puts our cutting edge right on the line we drew. So at this point we're going to cut down the groove to 412 here. We'll have to move back to center and then offset and take up our backlash and deal with the other side after that. So you get the basic idea. We're going to have to do this a number of passes. It's going to take a while doing it at 30 thousandths per pass, but with an end mill this size, that's about all this machine will handle without wandering. So I'm going to pause the cameras, I'll bring you all back in when we're pretty much there. Now that that's all cut and the air compressor's finally shut itself off, here's our groove. Just dragging there. Just have clearance. There. We'll call that our 0. I don't smoke, but those cigarette papers come in really handy. So anything I move this way, we're going to start dialing in a cut on the bottom of the groove. So what we'll do is we'll just start off light here. Let's go your way, say, let's do a 30 thousandths cut. I'd rather take light cuts and be easy on the cutter. This is going to take a while, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera, bring you back in a little bit later. All right. So that's both sides roughed. We're going to grab some 1/4 inch pins, and then we're going to use the gauge pin measurement between the two dovetail angles. I don't have any sets of precision gauge pins. Closest I have are a couple known good name brand milling cutters. Those are going to be our 1/4 inch gauge pins. We're looking for a measurement of 1 inch 81 thousandths between the pins. And right now we're sitting at, well, 1 inch 83. I think we're going to leave it at that. Well, I guess the proof is in the pudding if it fits on the tool post. And I kind of like that. I think that'll work. Oh, we're through. A little bit of emotion lotion, as my Uncle Mark calls it. Well, that's the bottom of the hole. All right, there you go. All right. There you go. Pull that little, just have to get rid of this little burr on the back side, and we got ourselves a knob. Now, even though I used a bottoming tap in here, it's not going to reach the exact bottom of the hole. So that bottom thread is now jammed into the bottom of the hole, effectively locking the stud in place. Next up comes our adjuster knob, little bent washer, and we're going to use one of those nuts as the lock for a quick change. Now it's time to set it up. I don't know what's going to be center, so we're going to have to figure that out. What I was thinking would be a useful trick with this particular little tool here is using the live center in the tailstock to help line this thing up. So theoretically, if we leave that for the quick change loose, and that for the quick change loose, we need to find the center, because if we're going to be drilling offset holes, we have to have some point of reference, right? So if we bring this up, we tighten up our tailstock, we should just be able to snug our post, snug that in place. Bring that down, and we should be centered. So now say that this piece here, we need to drill 3 holes offset, say, because we're using a 3-jaw chuck, 3 holes offset from the center by 3/8 of an inch. Lock the cross slide, a little bit of lube. I'm just going to use 7590 gear oil in our little oil pockets. Yeah, and I can see that the shaft is now oiled, and it is sliding very nicely, very little play. There you go. Well, that took a little bit of time to get done, just simply because of the fact that I have to work around my son's nap and feeding schedules, and, well, chasing him around the house and making sure he stays out of trouble. So when he's napping, that's when I get to come down and play. But yeah, overall, I'm actually pretty happy with how this thing turned out. As I say, there's very little play in that bushing there, between the bushing and the shaft. Yeah, dovetail came out nicely. I'm actually pretty tickled with this thing. The thing is, I needed this tool to be able to do the next job, which is one of the jobs I have to do for Uncle Tim. Otherwise, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.